So one of the things I did today was look at making a scale model of the set design that I had. So I did this by cutting out pieces of um, board and gluing them together using the scale ruler to make sure that I had them the right size, and that they matched the size on my designs. The reason that I made a scale model is because it not only helps me and everyone else visualize how the set is going to look like, it also helps me know a bit better what is working and what isn't working and what I might need to change, as well as then for the other departments, particularly lighting and set dressing, to have an idea of what I'm doing to then help them with what they're doing, as it's quite, especially with set dressing, it's quite closely linked as to what I'm doing and what they're doing. So with lighting, they can now start planning where where their lights are going to go and which bits they want to be in light in certain places, um, in relation to our timeline, which we completed last week. And then after I'd finished making the model, Grace, who's on set dressing, then painted it. Um, she chose the color from the swatches that they took last week to help her choose, which then also helps me know what's going to happen. After that, I continue to work on drawing out the plans and designs to scale, uh, particularly looking at the set from different angles. So, an overhead view, a view from the side, and a view straight on, as well as perspective drawings. Having an overhead view is particularly important for the lighting designer, as it helps them plan their rig. On top of that, they can use that to draw out their lighting plan. So it was important to get that done. Uh, it was quite difficult for me to draw all of this to scale accurately, as I find I have a lot of trouble with. I get very confused easily when there's a lot of lines, and obviously I need to use a lot of lines to make sure I get the right size and everything is even. But I'd draw a lot and have to redo it because I would measure one side larger than the other because I got confused on the numbers on the scale ruler. So I had to put some steps in place to stop me from continuing to make those mistakes. Like I might make a little mark on the ruler with the measurement that I need to take if I need to take it more than once, as the graphite could just rub off afterwards. But it would help me for those few lines that I needed to do the same, that I didn't have to think about it too hard, which sped me up and also stopped me from having to redo it about 3 times, like I did with some of the other ones. I also might put a sticky note if I don't necessarily want to draw on it, or maybe on the paper as to where it needs to go, just to give myself a better idea, and so it's less confusing for me. And also I went over some of the lines that needed to stay, um, with a 4B pencil after doing it lightly in a 2B pencil. So I had a better idea of what needed to stay and what the focal points were, and just having a better idea of where I was in the drawing process. Um, and after that, I also had a discussion with my group about having a poppy drop at at the very end of the piece, where we will fill something up with poppies and drop them onto the set. We were mostly thinking about how we were going to make the poppy petals, if we were going to buy them or make them ourselves, and we were thinking about the pros and cons of each option. Such as with buying, we weren't necessarily sure of what the material would be and how that will look falling, as we'd use some tissue paper today to test out what has the best fall, and we found that we really liked 1 and 2 sheets of tissue paper was had a really nice quality to it as it fell, and we weren't sure if we purchased it if we'd be able to get the same effect. But then also, if we bought it, we'd have more time, as if we made them, it would be we'd have to spend a lot of time cutting them out when that time might be better spent on other props and set dressing. I think something I could have done better today would have been maybe using a more methodical approach to the order in which I did the sketches for the scale drawings of the set, as I think I should have maybe started more so after getting the initial drawing of the set done, the initial perspective one. I should have gone straight into doing the overhead one, so Dylan, the lighting designer, could have that straight away to start moving on to his next steps, as he was then waiting for me to finish when ideally I would have finished that one first and have been working on a different one that wasn't the priority at the time. The same with the main one. I made copies of my first main perspective sketch of the set for Grace. Um, but I did this later on, and I think if I'd done it earlier, then she could have got on with starting to think about really how it's going to look for her and what she wants to add, where she wants her props to go, and how it will interact with what I'm doing, and so I can adapt what I'm doing to interact with what she's doing. So I think I would have just maybe I think I should have made a list of what I wanted to do, and then made another one with the different ones in priority order rather than just getting them all done at random points. What went well today though was tracing the image of the original set. So I made 2 or 3 copies of these by tracing it, and it was really useful because then I could have different ones to test things out on, and Grace could have them to maybe test colours or test placement of things, and it's just really nice to have several copies. Um, and lighting could have one as well. Sound, everybody then has their own copy, and I think that was a really useful thing to have done. And the tracing was really simple, as it was quite, the pencil lines were quite strong to be able to see through.